And now that you know how important scale degrees are, let's take a deeper look into every scale degree of the major scale. The major scale is built off of 7 notes, as you know using this formula. Each one of these notes is a scale degree, from 1 to 7. Each one of these 7 scale degrees has a name. The names are as follows: tonic, supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, and leading tone. As you know, all triad chords need a root, a third, and a fifth. Well, these 7 notes are all the 7 root notes in a major scale, which means that there are only 7 triad chords in a major scale. Those chords are the following. Also, the Roman numerals will be explained in a bit. Let's start with the first one, tonic, or major scale degree 1. Tonic is the first degree of the scale. The tonic note defines the name of the scale and also serves as the natural resolution point to all other notes in the scale. It holds the feeling of home. The tonic chord is made out of the tonic note, or scale degree 1, the median, or scale degree 3, and the dominant, or scale degree 5. This chord is built with these notes because 1/3 interval above tonic is the median, and 1/3 interval above the median is the dominant. As you now know, triad chords are built on third intervals. The way the notes in a major scale are separated make the tonic chord a major chord. Its classical notation symbol is the Roman numeral for 1. The number being written in uppercase like this and not in lowercase like this means it's a major chord. So in lowercase it would be minor. So this is major, this is minor. By saying that tonic has the feeling of home, I mean that historically tonic was the go-to chord to end a piece. It makes the chord progression feel resolved, finished. If you hear this chord after a chord progression, you could hear nothing else and walk away calmly. But if you heard any other chord at the end of the progression, it would feel like the progression has not finished yet, like it's still waiting to go somewhere. Also, that's mainly how I find the scales for songs in my videos. I find the progression, then I play whatever chord I believe to be the tonic after it, and if it sounds finished, then I know I got the right scale. And if not, then I keep looking. This characteristic is called tonic function, and it means that tonic chords have a state of stability and rest. Tonic chords do not demand to progress to any other chords. Of course, most of that feeling of home on the tonic chord comes from the tonic note itself, so the tonic note is also extremely common to find in top melodies and progressions for single note instruments like flutes and such. The tonic chord nowadays is present in almost all chord progressions in rap, pop, country music, and so on. Most times it is even the first chord in the progression. That's because resolution is an important part of music, and while it's not impossible to write nice sounding music without it, most producers find that there's no replacing the tonic chord in a melody, be it in major or in minor scales. Here are some examples of the one chord being used to start progressions. You'll find links to these videos on page 64 of your ebook. Also, reminder, we're now discussing only chords in the major scale. We'll go over the ones in the minor scale later, but for now, don't confuse them. They are pretty similar but have some key differences, so please don't mix them up. Okay, moving on. Supertonic, or major scale degree 2. Supertonic is the second degree of the scale. The supertonic note is currently extremely important for popular music, and that's because of two things. First, the second degree of the scale offers no real ugly dissonant sound when paired with any of the other 7 triad chords in a major scale, which means that it can be used the most often without sounding bad at any point. And second, because the second degree of the scale is right between 1 and 3, which as you know are part of the tonic chord, which is the chord that holds the feeling of home. So it can not only be paired with any chord, but it can easily resolve by moving either one scale note up or down. The supertonic chord is made out of the supertonic note, or scale degree 2, the subdominant, or scale degree 4, and the submediant, or scale degree 6. The way the notes in a major scale are separated make the supertonic chord a minor chord. Its classical notation is the Roman numeral for 2, in lowercase because it's a minor chord. The supertonic chord has what's called a predominant harmonic function. These chords tend to progress to chords of dominant function, meaning the 5 and 7. This symbol will be explained later, by the way. However, I would argue that it does not move nicely to the 7 because the 7 has such a weird sound, but we'll also talk about that later. This basically means that the supertonic chord has the tendency to go to 5. The supertonic chord also works well as a substitute for the leading tone chord because it shares 2 notes with it, which causes it to also work when used next to the 1 chord. So it works well next to chords 1 and 5. It sounds especially good when the 2 is moving down to the 5 chord because moving by an interval of a fifth, which is the distance between the 2 and the 5 when the 5 is 1 octave lower, makes a good, strong harmonic motion. Here are some examples of the 2 chord being used in different situations. In the first one, you'll see it next to a 5 chord, in the second one, we'll see it next to a 1 chord, and in the last one, we'll see it next to a 3 chord, which also sounds good because chords 2 and 3 are right next to each other in the scale. This makes for a smooth transition between them. You'll find links to these videos in page 66 of your ebook. Median, major scale degree 3. Median is the 3rd degree of the scale. The function of the median chord is a lot harder to define than the tonic or supertonic. I like to think that rather than having a strict tonic, subdominant, or dominant function, you'll understand all those 3 words in a bit, the median has a prolongation function. By that I mean that the function of the median chord doesn't depend so much in the chord itself, but rather the context it is put into. If you use it after the 1 chord, then it adapts to a tonic function, because it prolongs the feeling of tonic or home. And if you put it next to the 5 chord, then it prolongs the feeling of dominant, which is explained later. The reason behind this is that the median chord is built on scale degrees 3, 5, and 7. And in this case, the median note has a feeling of tonic, while the leading tone, 7, has a strong dominant feeling. So the 2 are clashing in 1 chord, giving the median triad this cool characteristic. Also, side note, a lot of people have their mind made up about what the function of the median chord is. It is mostly talked about as being a tonic function chord. So that last part is just my experience with the chord. The way the notes in a major scale are separated make the median chord a minor chord. Its classical notation symbol is the Roman numeral for 3. In lowercase because it's a minor chord. The fact that the median chord is a minor chord and also the fact that it's just 1/3 above tonic gives this chord a special feature. Third interval moves are considered weak motion because only one note changes when going from 1 chord to a 3rd interval up or down. The special feature it has is that going from 1 to 3 can make a progression in the major scale sound sad. I know I said that 1 to 3 made the 3 have a tonic prolongation function, and that is still true, but on top of that, it also helps give us a more serious melancholic feeling. So the median chord is not only a way to keep the tonic feeling of home while letting us change the chord, so the progression is less boring, this sad feeling my experience can also be there even if not played right after the 1 chord. Here are some sad song examples. Lastly, I want to say that the 3 chord, much like all other chords, can be paired with any chord, and it really is up to you to make it sound good. After all, there are no absolutes in music, but most often you will see it being next to the 1, 4, or 6. Subdominant, major scale degree 4. Subdominant is the 4th degree of the scale. Much like the 2nd degree of the scale, the subdominant chord, made from scale degrees 4, 6, and 1, is often used to move between triads of more weight or resolution. It has a predominant, aka subdominant function, which means that it leads nicely to 5. And like the 2, the 4 can also resolve pretty efficiently to the tonic chord or 1. It is classically used as a precursor to the 5 chord to help it form an authentic cadence. That is when the progression ends on chords 5, 1. This is the most common way to end a progression in classical music, by the way. Or before 1 to end in a plagal cadence. That is when a progression ends on chords 4, 1. This is not as strong of an end as 5-1, and that's because the subdominant chord does not have the super strong feeling of away from home, which the 5 does have. And that's because one of the notes in the 4 chord is the 1 scale degree, which is arguably the most important component in the tonic chord. The way the notes in a major scale are separated make the subdominant chord a major chord. Its classical notation symbol is the Roman numeral for 4, in uppercase because it's a major chord. Side note, the subdominant note itself leads nicely to the 5 and 3 scale degrees, because like I said before, scale degrees like resolving either one scale note up or down. Also, pretty much all chords move nicely to their nearest chord, like the 4 with 3 and 5, because of this same principle. In my opinion, the 4 chord is kind of a chill chord. Often you will hear it in melodic beats because it can add a melodic richness to a track without bringing with it too much tension. You couldn't do that so easily with a chord like the 3, for example, which, as you know, has kind of an emotional feeling. Here are some examples of it being used. Dominant, major scale degree 5. Dominant is the 5th degree of the scale. The dominant chord is made from scale degrees 5, 7, and 2. The dominant chord is the second most important chord behind the tonic chord, or 1 chord. And that is because if the tonic is home, then the dominant chord is the furthest possible place away from home. Let me explain. Classically, the preferred way to end a progression was by playing the dominant chord, which creates tension, and then ending it on the tonic chord, which resolves that tension, giving you the feeling of completion. The reason the 5 chord has this characteristic is because of the 7 in it. As you know, the median chord also has a 7 scale degree in it, but the reason the median doesn't have this characteristic is because the median also has a 3 scale degree in it, which has a tonic feeling. The dominant chord does not have a tonic sounding note, which lets the 7 completely take over. The 7 scale degree is called the leading note. That's because it leads to tonic. Being the last note before tonic and also being only one semitone away from it gives the 7 this feeling that the scale is almost done but not quite yet, which makes you want to hear that final tonic sound to end it. And of course the 5 scale degree as a root ensures a strong harmonic motion to 1, since it's a move of a 5th interval, like I told you. A chord that has this characteristic is a chord that has a dominant function, which the 5 has. The way the notes in a major scale are separated make the dominant chord a major chord. Its classical notation symbol is the Roman numeral for 5. There are many ways to use the 5 chord outside of the classic way of using it to end a progression on a perfect cadence of 5-1. Most commonly, the 5 is also used after the chords 4 and 2, which have a predominant function. The 5 chord is also commonly used before or after the 6, since their scale degrees lead nicely to each other, especially before 6, since the 6 chord has theoretically a tonic function, but more on that later. Lastly, it can also be used before or after the mediant, since they both share 2 scale degrees, the 5 and 7. Ultimately, the 5 chord is a chord that can be used next to basically any other chord as long as you know how to manage the tension it creates, which is something that you'll have to learn from practice or from looking at how other people did it. Here are some examples of the 5 chord being used. The first 2 are examples of the 5 chord landing on a 1 chord, and the last example is a 4 chord leading to the 5. You'll find links to these videos on page 73 of your ebook. Submedian, major scale degree 6. Submedian is the 6th degree of the scale. The submedian chord is made from scale degrees 6, 1, and 3. Like the median chord, the submedian has a prolongation function, but unlike the median, this prolongation function is not as versatile. The submedian chord's primary function is the tonic prolongation, meaning it can be used as a replacement for the 1 chord, and also can follow the 1 chord in progressions without there being too noticeable of a chord change, if the inversions are done right, of course. Don't worry about inversions for now, we'll talk about them later. And that is because the tonic and submedian share degrees 1 and 3. The way the notes in a major scale are separated make the submedian chord a minor chord. Its classical notation symbol is the Roman numeral for 6. Like the tonic and subdominant chords, this is a good chord to start a progression on because it has the tonic scale degree 1. The subdominant chord moves nicely to or from 1 and 4 chords because they share 2 scale degrees, 1 and 6 in the case of 4 and 1 and 3 in the case of 1. Also, because of how close their scale degrees are, 6 works well paired with 5, with 1, 5, 6 being one of my favorite ways to make a soulful sounding progression in the major scale. Also, in a lot of sad songs, it is very common to find the 6 chord going to the 3 chord. For example, in the MIDI challenge for the chapter 10 you just did, I'm using a 1-6-3 progression. Here are some examples of the 6 chord being used. You'll find links to these videos in page 76 of your ebook. Leading tone, major scale degree 7. Leading tone is the 7th degree of the scale. The leading tone chord is made from scale degrees 7, 2, and 4. Like the dominant chord, the leading tone chord has a dominant function, meaning it creates tension and wants to resolve to tonic, because it also has a 7th scale degree in it without a tonic sounding note in it. But unlike the dominant, the leading tone chord does not have that strong 5th interval move to tonic, making this not as satisfactory of a conclusion. The way the notes in a major scale are separated make the leading tone chord a diminished chord. Its classical notation symbol is the Roman numeral for 7. This symbol here indicates that it's a diminished chord, and not major nor minor. As you already know, diminished chords are built on 2 minor thirds and contain a tritone, which makes this chord sound very weird and not good at all. It sounds so bad, in fact, that a lot of people don't even consider it a real chord, but rather a 5 chord without the root, or scale degree 5, and a 4th scale degree over it. That is not the case for diminished chords in minor scales. In fact, we're going to be using that chord quite often, but in the case of the major scale, I've almost never seen leading tone chords being used in modern popular music at all. Regardless of how often it is used nowadays, the leading tone chord can help add a sense of suspense and excitement or drama and intensity to your music. So at least try it before you decide it sounds weird. And with that, now you know all 7 7 chords of the major scale. I know this was probably a lot to take in your first watch, so here's a nice little summary of the most important stuff I mentioned here so we can move on onto the minor scale next. You'll also find it on page 77 of your ebook. And if you think you got the information so far, you can move on to page 78 in your ebook to complete this chapter's challenge.